collagen back and it's collagen it's back, cause he's in college and he's back, he's in college and he's back, he does college and he's back, he does college and he's back, collagen back and collagen back and collagen back.
Welcome back to the College and Back podcast. Today is season 1, episode 4, and if you can't tell, I am by myself today. There is no other guest with me, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. I was trying to get a guest in line and it just never panned out for today, so I'm just going to do this by myself. It probably will be a little shorter of a podcast, but I think still a good one and one you'll want to listen to. So to start out, why am I doing a podcast by myself? First of all, why am I not doing another video? Well, last week I said I was going to do a podcast, so I'm going to stick by my word and actually do a podcast. I was thinking of doing a video, but I just decided let's just go through and do a podcast. So what I actually did was I went on my Instagram, my main one, and my College and Back Instagram, and did a little Q&A thing about just whatever topics you want. So, we're just going to go through those questions that people have and stuff like that. It's not going to really be very extensive, but there are a few questions on there that I'm going to do, and I did do it kind of late, so there might be questions that come in afterwards, after the fact of me recording this. So if there are, then I will save those questions and do them another time, because I'm sure this will not be the only time I record by myself. So on the next one, I will do that Q&A for the people who ask questions after the fact. So what I'm going to be doing today, other than the Q&A, I'm going to be doing a kind of a segment that I made up, which I'll get into in a little bit. But I kind of just want to recap the first 3 episodes of this podcast and kind of talk about that and how I think it went and stuff like that. So you might ask, why do a recap right now? Like, why do a recap of the first 3 shows? It's not very many. So why do a recap on the 4th? And my answer to that is because I think the first 3 episodes had some really good stuff in it, and I want this episode to be longer than 5 minutes. So I want to add some things into it, and there are some things I do want to talk about the first couple episodes that I think were really good. Let's just get into it, I guess, right now. Usually there's usually about 10 episodes in the season. I'm going to cap my seasons at 10 episodes. So usually around the 5th episode of every season, I'll kind of do a halfway point probably. Might not happen every season, but I'm thinking around the episode 5 mark, I'll do kind of a recap of the first half of the season, something like that. We'll just see, though. This is a brand new podcast, so we'll just see how it goes. So let's talk about the first 3 episodes. So the first episode was me talking by myself for 15 minutes. It was not a very good episode, as this one might not be great either. But it's hard to do a podcast by yourself, and I said that in the first episode, I think. It was just me talking about what I want the podcast to look like a little bit. So basically, I just said I want it to be getting to know other people and what they're interested in, and kind of just seeing what their hobbies are, what they like to do in their spare time other than school, because most of the people I have on my podcast are in college or in school at least. I just talked about wanting it to be kind of a Q&A thing, but also just kind of a conversation about life and like what is fun to other people in their life. So that was the first episode in a nutshell. The second episode was with my friend Zach. Zach, aka Sparky, on ELH2 of my floor. I'm not going to say the school, but you probably already know it because you've heard it a bunch. So Zach is a really cool person. He is a freshman this year in college, and he's adjusted to college very well. I don't know how many people are going to listen to this or hear this from my dorm, but I think he might be my favorite freshman. Yeah, I mean, he's a very cool guy, very down to earth. Is friends with everybody. Just seems like he gets along well with everyone. And he's really cool. I mean, he's doing a major that nobody really even knows about, at least at my school. I don't know other schools if it's very common, but, mechatronics, I said mega again, mechatronics is not very common. It's basically just mechanical and electrical engineering combined. But it's a very unique major, and one that not many people are, I wouldn't say not interested in, but they just don't do it because it sounds very hard. But Zach's very smart. He knew how to 3D print stuff before he even got to our school. So he's pretty ahead of the game in that area. So he's a really cool guy. Of course, he brought up the classic, the pretzel man. That was the thumbnail. It was him eating pretzels in water. So if you want to go back and listen to that, Zach talked about one of his favorite moments, and that was one of them. So go back and listen to it. He also answered the question about who his 3 famous people he'd want to eat dinner with. I can't remember exactly who he said, but one of them was a inventor who I now know of, that I didn't at the time, but I do now. So that's really cool. And so that was basically Zach's episode, highlighted by the mechatronics major and the pretzel picture that is the thumbnail of that video on YouTube. So it's not a video, it's an audio, but the thumbnail of the video for YouTube is that picture. So then we went into episode 3 with Jacob. Jacob is one of my best friends at college. He's a really cool guy as well. He's into Bud, which he introduced me to, which I talked about a lot on there. So he talked a lot about Bud and like what it is and what he's looking forward to with Bud, which is really cool. I asked in the Q&A about if anybody had any questions about Bud, and I might have gotten 1 or 2 about it, so I'll answer those in a little bit. But he just talked about how cool Bud is and why he joined it and kind of like why he wanted to be a leader of it. So Bud is a really cool guys group. Delight is the version for the girls. It's just a really cool group that you can go to talk about life and struggles with life and stuff like that. So it's a really cool group. And Jacob mentioned in that episode the Unshakable conference, which I actually did, which I wasn't expecting to do, but kind of last minute I decided, hey, I'll give it a shot. So I actually did the Unshakable conference, and it was one of the best experiences of my life, I would say. I mean, it really impacted me a lot. Now, not every single session of it did, but there's a couple of them that were really key, and I think could be life-changing potentially, and for other people. It was just really, really powerful what some of the speakers said. So it was really cool to do that, and I'm so glad Jacob mentioned it on there because I probably wouldn't have signed up for it, honestly, if it weren't for Jacob saying that. So really glad he did, and it was really cool to hear that from Jacob. He talked about playing golf over the break, which I have done a couple of times, actually once, but I think I'm going maybe this afternoon to play a little bit of golf. So that should be fun. We talked about football, which I will get to in a little bit. I have a topic to talk about football, but he talked about the Seahawks and how they would beat the Cardinals, and they did that weekend, but the Seahawks right now are on kind of a losing streak. They lost to the Giants on Sunday as I'm recording this on the Tuesday after, so Jacob is probably not too happy right now about that. It doesn't look like Russell Wilson's going to win MVP either at this point, just because of his losing ways in the last couple of weeks. So rip to the Seahawks. My Steelers, on the other hand, have been playing very well all season up until this last week, which I will talk about in a little bit. So yeah, and then I asked him the same questions I asked Zach. Trying to see if there's any interesting ones he said. Not really. I mean, his was all interesting as well, but he talked about the the Delight and Bud meetup, or whatever you want to call it, the Bud Light group is what Jacob said. So that was really cool as well, just to meet up with the girls and to just worship God. It was an awesome time. So that was basically episode 3. So that was a recap really quick of the first 3 episodes. I look forward to hearing interesting things about other people as well. So if you want to join the podcast, DM me on social media or text me if you have my number, and we'll get you on the podcast. So let's move on. Let's go into the Q&A now. So most of these questions are actually about Christmas. I have looked at some of them, and they're mostly about Christmas. So this might be a Christmas-themed second half of the episode. But first of all, let's go to The first one says, what are your Christmas... No, sorry, I read that wrong. What's your favorite Christmas tradition? I'll just go with that one first. So, my favorite Christmas tradition probably, honestly, is the Christmas Eve whole experience. Like, Christmas is cool, opening presents and everything, but I'm not going to go just with opening presents. Like, I'm not going to say that. Really, to me, the lead up to Christmas is probably my favorite part. Like, just the Christmas Eve day when, like, you come together with your family, you're just hanging out, and then you get ready, go to church, you do the whole candlelight service thing, and then for us, for my family, we always get Mexican food. That's just what we do. We've done that ever since I was probably 3 years old. I don't really know when we started it, but it's been a while. We've done it every single year, and it's just something we do. So we get Mexican food. We come home. We eat Mexican food, and then we watch, usually A Christmas Story is the movie we watch. We'll watch some other movies possibly too. And then we open one present on Christmas Eve, and the present always is Christmas pajamas. My mom always gets us Christmas pajamas every single year. And so that's the present we'll open, and then we used to, I'm not going to say this actually because I don't know if there's any kids watching, so I'll just not say it. And then we do a couple other things, and then we go to bed, and then we wake up in the morning. But that whole, like, Christmas Eve tradition thing is really cool. I'm glad my family is so close because I know some families probably don't do stuff like that. But I'm just so happy that my family is a big tradition family, and we do stuff like that for Christmas Eve. So I would say that is probably my favorite part about my favorite Christmas tradition, I guess. Are Christmas gifts that people want the most this year. So some of the things that people want the most. I would probably honestly say, for at least my age of people, I would probably say like PS5, Xbox Series X or whatever, the new Xbox and the new the PlayStation system. That's actually not my biggest, that's one of my biggest gifts that I want, which they don't even have anymore, but I would say that's pretty big on people's list this year. People that play video games, at least. I would also say, I guess, probably just money, because, I mean, this year has stripped a lot of people of money, and, like, for college students, I just think of money as something that just kids want. I'm not sure for younger kids what they want, maybe a cell phone, but I mean, for most people, I think it's just money and maybe the PS5, Xbox Series X, I think are probably the biggest gifts on a lot of people's list. I want a new truck, but I mean, that's just me dreaming probably, but I don't know, some people might want a new car or something like that. So that's what I would say. The next one, let's see here. I kind of already answered it. What do you want for Christmas? I would love a new truck. The PS5 definitely is on my list. Or like podcasting equipment. That'd be cool too. I've looked around for that a little bit. So yeah, that's probably what I would. Another question is, what is the best Christmas gift you've ever gotten? So I would probably have to say the best Christmas gift I've ever gotten. That's really, really tough because like most of the things that I've gotten for Christmas have not been like these massive, massive things. They're usually, I get gift cards and money and then I buy things with that. But probably the best gift I've ever gotten was when I got my phone, my first phone. I got it on Christmas. That was probably the most excited I've been to get a Christmas present. Probably ever. I mean, I can't really think of anything else. I did get a pair of Houston Rockets tickets one year. That was really cool, actually. Probably either getting the Rockets tickets or getting my phone. I would say, no, it's not a question on here, but I would say the best Christmas gift I've ever given somebody, I actually bought tickets to a U of H basketball game, which, of course, are less expensive than Rockets, but to U of H basketball game for me, my dad, and my brother to go. And they were pretty good seats, and I just felt so cool for buying it. I think it was like $84 for the three of us to go. But I felt really cool. I felt like, yeah, I can actually buy tickets and I can do this. And it just felt real cool for me to do that. But anyway, that's not a question, but just felt like I should say it. So that's kind of all of the questions I have on here for Christmas related stuff. And then I have one, and y'all, if you know me and know what floor I'm on at college, you can probably guess who this is who asked this, but I'm not going to say. I'll just let y'all guess. But the question is, who was the guy in your Lake Day video that was the swamp monster? He's kind of cute, not gonna lie. I don't know how to respond to this, honestly. I was gonna say something about it, but I just decided, like, hey, I'm not gonna say anything. I don't want to be gay on here. I really don't. Um, so I'm not gonna say whether he was cute or not. But I'm sure y'all all can guess who wrote this question. His name has 3 letters in it, but I'm not gonna say who it is. And by the way, I just have to say, I would never say who the swamp monster is, because the swamp monster is a living legend, and I would never do that. I would never give his true identity away. I have to keep it a secret, because the swamp monster is his own being when it comes down to it, and he might be in a future video. So I don't want to ever get rid of the swamp monster. He's a legend on this channel. Honestly, he has the video of him has is top 5 in views for a video on my channel, so I would never do that. I can't answer the question. I'm sorry, but yeah, it's a great question. But can't answer it. Sorry about that. But yeah, that's basically all the questions. If I get any more questions that I feel like I should answer in a different episode, I will do that. But for now, that's all the questions I will do. I'm already at 20 minutes recording this, so I'm just gonna keep on going. I don't want this to be a super long episode, because it's probably not the most entertaining, but I'm trying my best to make it entertaining with just me. But so let me go into the next couple of topics. So I wrote down to talk about Christmas coming up. It's still pretty early. I'm recording this on December 8th. It's actually my roommate's birthday, so happy birthday to my roommate. And then I also have my grandparents' birthdays are coming up as well. Their birthdays are pretty close together, so happy birthday to my grandparents. And I know a lot of other people have birthdays around this time of year, so happy birthday to anybody who's in the next 15 days, plus or minus, I guess is what I'll say, to cover 30 days worth of birthdays. So I want to do this little segment really fast. I thought it would be the easiest way to get my points across here. I was going to do a segment called Topics of the Week. So this last week, I want to just go over the topics that have come up, big or small. Most of these are pretty big, I would say. But so the first one I'm going to be going over is John Wall getting traded in the NBA for Russell Westbrook. So that's the first one I want to go over, and then that also has to do a little bit with James Harden, wanting out of Houston. And I put a question mark because who knows what's actually going to happen. So on my N Squared Sports YouTube channel that I do with me and my friend Nick, we talked about this. It actually has a pretty decent amount of views. I think almost 90 views on that video. So pretty good for that video. But I just want to talk about kind of the latest, what's happened with that. So John Wall, of course, got traded almost a week ago now for Russell Westbrook. And Russ is in Washington, and John Wall is now, of course, in Houston. So John Wall has been working out with the team. I've seen some pictures posted with him and DeMarcus Cousins and Ben McLemore, guys on the Rockets. But James Harden is nowhere to be seen. He has not reported back to the team. He is reportedly been seen in strip clubs with Lil Baby and different other rappers, I'm sure. But Harden has not reported to the team, not even for his individual workouts, which is kind of frightening because the season starts in less than 2 weeks now, and once he gets back, he might have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So not sure what's going on there. I heard actually last night before I went to bed, I heard this radio show with these guys talking about them basically saying, what's going to happen is the Rockets will trade a Harden, whether it's now or January, February. They're just waiting for the right time to trade him. And Harden is kind of doing his version of holding out, which I could see. I really hope he doesn't though, because John Wall said they've talked and everything is fine, and they want to play together. But the more and more this goes on, the more and more I think that Harden really does want out and does not want to play with John Wall this year. So they might be a big rip for Rockets fans pretty soon, including myself. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But yeah. So that's kind of basically what happened. Russell Westbrook is doing great with the Wizards. I think he's worked out and he's looked pretty good. So I wish him the best in Washington. He was great for us until he got hurt. But I used to hate Russ honestly, but when he was here, I liked him, and I don't hate him now. I mean, anyway, that's just a long story that I can go into later. But so yeah, that was John Wall getting traded for Russ, and then Harden possibly wanting out of Houston. The next thing I want to go over is kind of the idea of the Steelers losing. So they were 11-0 going into last night's game, and they freaking lost to the football team. So a team without even a name, they lost to. Granted, the Washington football team have a great defensive line that got to Big Ben, I think, a lot last night. The running game was non-existent, and the Steelers' offense was very inconsistent just in general. They got out to 14-0 lead and then blew it. So I don't want to go into this very long, but I'm just going to say that people who are freaking out over the Steelers, I would say they've been inconsistent all year long. Now, their defense has been the best in the league by far, I feel like. I mean, people will disagree with that. People will say that, oh, the Saints' defense is better, or I don't know, a different name a different defense. They'll say it's better. The Steelers' defense has been far and away the best defense in the NFL. They lead the league in interceptions and sacks, so just kind of chill a little bit with that. Like, I know you think other defenses are better. The Steelers' defense has been the best. Anyway, going off of that tangent, their offense has been inconsistent the whole year. I mean, they've barely beaten some teams that they should blow out. They barely beat the Cowboys. Last night they lost to the football team. I almost said Redskins. Oh, don't say that. And so they've been very inconsistent all year long. They barely beat the Ravens last year. They barely beat the Ravens last week without Lamar Jackson and with Trace McSorley throwing a touchdown to Hollywood Brown. So, I mean, they've been very inconsistent just the whole year. So I don't want to hear, oh, the Steelers cracked finally. They've really played bad a lot this year. And does it worry me? Yeah, it does. But then again, when playoff time comes around, they'll most likely have a first-round bye and be the 1 seed. So, I mean, maybe not. The Chiefs might end up getting them unless the Steelers can kind of go undefeated the rest of the way, which might not happen. So they might not have a first-round bye, but they're going to be a top seed in the playoffs. And I just don't see a way that they don't at least go to the second round of the playoffs. I'm not one of those guys who say, oh, the Steelers are destined for the Super Bowl. Like, that's not something that is realistic to me. I think they're probably the second best team in the AFC on a given week. I mean, I think that. I think they've had a couple of bad weeks. They had a couple guys on not IR, on the COVID list. They had their starting running back on the COVID list. They had their kicker on the COVID list. So, I mean, they've had some players on the COVID list that has hurt them. So, just give it a break when you talk about the Steelers finally cracking. Like, yeah, they finally lost, but I think they've played this way the whole time. So, I don't think it's a shock to me that they lost last night. Like, to me, it's just like, yeah, it was bound to happen eventually, that kind of thing. If they had a tougher schedule, they wouldn't be 11-1. They would probably be something like, I don't know, 7-5 at this point. They would probably be around 7-5 if they had a decently tough schedule. But since they've had a soft schedule, they're 11-1. They still are a very inconsistent offense. Ben has still looked really good. Their defense is top notch. It's just, can their offense click on the weeks they need to? And I think they can. They have the offensive personnel to definitely do that. Their offensive line has been pretty good with having a bunch of injuries. So I think it's possible. I really do. So that's all I'm going to say about that. The last topic I'm going to talk about is about 2020 and 2021. So I've talked about this not on here, but on a different kind of podcast slash video series that if you want to know more about, I can tell you about if you DM me, but I'm not going to name it here. But I talked about this on one of the episodes. I said, the question, I think there was a question that said something like, why is it dangerous to think about 2021, or why is it dangerous to think that 2021 is going to be so much better than 2020? Something like that. Something along those lines. And I just kind of went off on that. So I'm just going to talk for a minute or two, to end this episode. And just say, if you are thinking that 2021 is going to be so much better than 2020, you might as well just, I don't even know what. You might as well think differently or see counsel or something, because I guarantee you that 2021 will not be better than 2020 just because the calendar year flips. It just won't be. It's not possible. Just because a day changes and all of a sudden, oh wow, there's a 1 instead of a 0 at the end of 2020, that something is going to magically change. Like that's not going to happen. I wish and hope that next year is a better year overall than this year. But I hate people saying, oh, let's get out of 2020. If we can just get out of 2020, oh, this is the best thing that's happened in 2020. I saw that a couple times. I've seen that with a bunch of people that like, oh, this is the best thing that happened in 2020 altogether. Like, yeah, 2020 sucked, but don't think that just because 2021 comes around that things are all of a sudden going to be so much better. Like, we need to work as a society to get better. I don't think people think that it's just going to change just because the year changes. The problems are just going to lead into 2021. The problems we have now are just going to lead into the next year. And that doesn't matter what year you're going from. In like 2019, for example, that was a pretty good year. Nothing terrible happened that I can recall in 2019. Going into 2020, we thought, oh, this is going to be even better year, and it got so much worse. So stop saying that one year going to the next is going to change things. Like, I hope by the end of 2021 that things are different and things have changed. But I'm not expecting it to. Like, I'm being honest, I'm not expecting things to change. And I'm not going to go into politics at all, but I don't really think it's going to change next year. And I hope I'm wrong, and, I hope people don't get mad for that opinion, but I just don't think things are going to get a whole lot better next year. I hope by the end of next year things have changed, like I said, but I don't know. I don't want to be pessimistic, but I just don't want to be overly optimistic either. So that's kind of what I have to say about that. I'm praying every day for 2021 to be so much better, and I'm praying for a lot of other stuff. So I just want to encourage you, if you need prayer and you need help, let me know. Like, I want to be able to pray for you and all your struggles and everything that's going on, and just for the country in general. So for COVID, for the country, everything. So prayer helps, prayer works, and I think we need more prayer in our lives going into 2021. So yeah, that's basically all I have to say for this podcast. I know I went on a couple of tangents, but yeah, I think that's basically going to wrap this. So thank you all for listening to Season 1, Episode 4 of the College and Back podcast. I appreciate y'all so much. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, and please follow if you're listening on Spotify. I meant to say listening for YouTube, by the way. But thank you all for listening. Please look at all the links in the description. If you want to follow my Instagram or Twitter or anything like that, please do. Go check out my other YouTube channel at N Squared Sports, which will be in the description. And yeah, that will do it. And I will talk to you guys next time.